Hello, everyone. I'm using the microphone because my throat is bothering me a little bit from all the yelling last night at the Chinese auction. So if I have to drink water periodically, I may do so. So I realize that I am the only thing standing between you and lunch right now. So I am going to try to make it quick and but very thorough. This session is actually the second time I'm doing this presentation on the docs module. We decided to do the presentation twice, once yesterday, once today, for those of you who weren't able to attend yesterday's because it was a very hot topic. Okay, so what I'd like to do today is go over with you what are some of the enhancements we've added in version 11 for the docs module in particular. So what we did with v11 was we actually incorporated 37 enhancements into the docs module between version 10 and version 11. And of those 37 enhancements from different areas of the docs module, many of them actually came from our user community via our user voice. How many of you have used the user voice portal for submitting enhancements? Great. It's a great way to really communicate to us what your priorities are with regards to enhancements. And for those of you who haven't used the system, there is a voting mechanism where you can look at other people's enhancements, other users that have posted enhancements that they would like, and using a voting mechanism, you can really add your votes saying, I too need this enhancement, or this one is also great, and we can prioritize how many votes we get for different enhancements. So one of them, which I'll talk to, is one of the enhancements that we included that had the highest record number of enhancement requests and votes for that enhancement. Of those 37 enhancements, many of them came from different sources. Some of them came from critical customer requests, things that were sort of showstoppers that were limiting them from using the system to its fullest capacity. Some came from user voice, some from internal users, because we as employees of Master Control actually use Master Control for document management as well. Professional services from going out and helping you implement the systems and feedback you provide to our services team. And then some enhancements were performance enhancements, getting things to load quicker, to do things faster. So for starters, the top 10 that I'll talk about today is, one is around multi-select enhancements. Another category of enhancements we did was for packet types. And then last but not least, some other usability or user experience enhancements that we did to make your use of the system a little easier. And towards the end, I'll talk a little bit about what we're planning for in Beyond v11, some of the enhancements we have lined up for all of the releases that we'll be having on a three-month basis that Brian talked about earlier this morning, about our frequent release plans and all of the planning we're already doing all the way through 11.6 right now. So for starters, the one enhancement that received the most votes, which was, I believe, 165 votes in user voice, was the ability to have multi-select custom fields. So many of you who use custom fields will know that prior to v11, you have a drop-down menu, you pick one value, that's it, that's all you can do. So if you had instances where you were wanting to reference multiple products, multiple study numbers, multiple sites, you had to go through the pain of either having multiple custom fields with that same name, or go through the exercise of creating every possible combination, product A, product B, product A and B, product A and C, and it just became a nightmare. So we went ahead and added that enhancement. So now you have the choice when you're creating custom fields to have a multi-select custom field pick list. And you populate those pick lists similar to how you do with custom fields today, but the way it's portrayed to the user is that it's now a larger window. You're given the choice of all the custom field values, and they select the ones that they want, pull it into the selected value. And this then is reportable against, searchable against, and if you have taxonomy organizers that are based on that custom field, automatically creates those two values folder structure. And this was, as I mentioned, a very highly voted user voice enhancement. The next one was also around the multi-select enhancement, was the ability to map more than one life cycle per info card type. One of the challenges that customers were facing was that oftentimes they had one info card type like SOPs, But depending on which type of SOP it was, they wanted to have a different life cycle associated with it. Now, they could do that in sub-info card types, but they wanted to go even further, one level down. Perhaps they had SOPs for a certain site, but within that site, they wanted to further distribute or determine different rights access to different types of documents. By default, you either previously could only select one default life cycle, or leave it blank and have users scroll through a long list of life cycles and possibly select a life cycle that's not even applicable to that category of document. So what we've done now is enabled you to multi-select life cycles that will be defaulted for an info card type, so that when you, as a user, create a new document, a new info card, you have a short list of all of the life cycles that for that subtype is applicable. So you won't have the full, all of the life cycles that you have access to as a user. It's just what you have access as a user, and that's relevant to that info card type. So it's really enabling you to have more flexibility in your info card types, and also reducing the need to split additional or create additional sub-info card types simply because of that one-off document that has that slightly different role rights that you want access to. The next one was we did a lot of enhancements around packet types. We pretty much, the window of the packet type configuration is very, very different. And you'll see that in what we did with consolidating our packet types. So now when you create a packet type, you no longer have to choose whether it's a basic packet type or an advanced packet type. It's one standard packet type. And within the packet type itself, you then decide whether or not you want the advanced features to it or not. The way that's translated, which I'll show you in the screenshot, is basically a radio button that will open up an additional window or not. We also went in and decided to add routes into packet types and allow more than one route to be mapped to a packet type. Previously, packet types and routes were configurable to the info card type. What we found that what was happening was there was occurring a lot of conflict. There were oftentimes a packet type that was being assigned to an info card type, and then also a route that was being assigned to an info card type that was not part of the packet. So there was a lot of conflict, so which one overrides which. So what we've done is actually create a different stepped approach. Info card types map to packet types map to routes. And in those routes, you can select more than one default route if you choose to do that. The third enhancement is around being able to launch process forms from within packets. So some packets, especially advanced packets, require you to then, as part of the activity, launch a process form, an action item, or another type of form. And oftentimes you'd have to save the packet or launch it and go and open up a process form. Now you have the ability to configure certain packet types that will have launchable process forms from within the packet. And last but not least is the business units, being able to now separate your packet types by business units. That way you can, you're very welcome, you'll be able to now separate your packet types by business unit. And the way that translates on the screen is, so with the advanced packet types in BASIC, you now have a radio button. If you click on BASIC, you don't have all those additional options that you have for change requests and all of that. And if you click on the radio button for advanced, you get all of those options. You also will notice that there's now a window that enables you to multi-select more than one route that you'll be able to then launch from that packet type. And then down here, you have a window that will allow you to select which business units that packet type applies to. And then last but not least, which forms you want to make launchable for an advanced packet type. The process form launching is only applicable for the advanced option, if you want, which makes sense. If you have an advanced packet type, that's most likely where you'd want to launch a process form. Also a user voice enhancement. All of them, actually, I should say, all four of them. The next packet type enhancements, which isn't so much in the window of the packet type configuration, is the ability to load more than one file into a packet type and also attach documents more than one at a time. Previously, the workaround was select file, upload, click again, and just keep doing it until you get all of your documents in. Now you're able to...
I would just toss them all in my files temporarily just to upload them all.
To upload it, yeah. So now you can actually go into navigate your system, select all of the documents you want to upload, and
How
upload.
many can you select at a time?
Right now, I believe it's 99 is the limit.
So I still have.
How many files are you loading in? A lot. Or you can do 99 at a time. That helps a little.
Little advancement pocket.
Great. But we can certainly take some feedback on that. Also a user voice enhancement request. Then comes one of the ones that I think is pretty nifty and neat, because I often yell at my coworkers saying, you have a document locked in a collaboration and I need to work on it and you've had it for 2 weeks. So if you're one of those people that's guilty of checking a document out or locking a document in a collaboration and totally forgetting you even had it locked out, or you accidentally locked it out thinking you were just viewing it and you actually clicked the edit button, now if someone calls you, you can actually, from your My Tasks window, of all of your I have maybe 70 of my tasks, you can now see which of those lists of tasks you actually are actively working on a document. So there's an icon now that will show up on the page saying, in this collaboration, you actually have a document locked out. So check it back in or bring it back into the system. So it's a great way also to see what you're actively working on. I have, some really long collaborations, some of which are ones that are going on for months because we leave it open in that collaboration. So it's nice to know which ones you've actually have locked and keeping other users from editing. Also a user voice enhancement. And then one of the other ones that I really am happy about is our taxonomy organizers enhancement. Recently in a meeting we had with our CAB users, our customer advisory board users, we asked, what some of their pains were around the organizers and safe searches and all of that. And one of the questions I asked was, why, if safe searches are difficult, why not use taxonomy organizers instead? And the feedback we got was, it's not configurable enough. It's an all or nothing. I can't do anything. I don't need all my info cards to show up in my organizer. I want to pick and choose what I want, which custom fields and data system fields I want to use. But then in addition to that, I want to filter out which values I want. So what we've done with organizers is the ability now to, when you select all of those system fields and custom fields that you're wanting to drive your taxonomies on, you then now also have the ability to say, of all your info card types, which ones do you want to include? If you have 50 info cards, perhaps you only want 5 of them to show up in that particular organizer. So the same is true for sub-info card types and custom fields and system fields. If you only want release documents to show up in that organizer, then in the status, you only would pick the release state for that. So it really gives you a lot more flexibility now if you want to start leveraging the taxonomy organizers. That being said, we have even more amazing stuff coming up in the future for organizers, which sort of makes this almost null and void. It's even better now. And that was a user voice enhancement as well. And I believe this is the last one, which is the ability to, some of you who have Gateway have used Gateway in the past to export out organizers, but weren't able to do so with virtual folders. Now we've added the Gateway functionality to be able to do the same thing with virtual folders. So, and that basically looks the same as the Gateway now, but now you can select virtual folders. Also a user voice enhancement request. So now let's get to, so we've talked about what's in v11. These are just the top 10. We have 37. We couldn't fit 37 all into a 45-minute presentation. But now I want to also talk about what we're planning for beyond v11, which is also very exciting. So in v11x, what we're looking to do, and I think Brian showed you some previews of it this morning, which sort of stole my thunder, but is now we're revamping all of organizers. And Rob Thomas, who's heading up that project, we were just talking right before this meeting. People are literally giddy about this. If you're, yeah, we're moving away from Java. If you guys are really curious about this, which I highly, if you're as passionate about organizers as I am, I encourage going to the labs and meeting with Rob and Joe, and he's going to make you cry. You'll be so happy you'll cry. But we're moving away from Java. We're cleaning up the GUI. We're making it so much, for lack of better words, sexier. We're combining now the organizers into one interface. It's going to actually be an applet. It's an app that you can now, from any point in time, launch organizers. You can be in a training task. You want to look at something in a folder. It's a little button that opens up. It's really, really cool. So it's no more having to go into the viewer. You want to edit something, you have to go into the editor, wait for that little Java thing to open, the nightmare that we all have experienced. No longer have to do that. You also now have a lot more options from that interface to do more with your documents. You don't have to open up the info card in order to print it. You don't have to open it up to do a quick approve. It'll be a drop-down menu right from within when you locate that document in the organizer. Be able to do a lot of things from it. View info card, view the native, view the PDF, view all of the information about the document, being able to route it, add it to a route, revise it, all of those activities that you commonly open up the info card in order to do. We're reducing the amount of clicks you need to do in order to do those frequent actions. We're also adding more options, but simplifying. It sounds a little counterintuitive. You can do more, but it looks simpler, but it actually is. If you guys take a look at it, you'll see how slick the interface is, the ability to navigate and streamlined. That's a good word, streamlined. So it's really a great interface, and I think a move forward in our technology with presenting things to users, and focusing more on the user experience, and still focusing on the sysadmin who's maintaining the system, but focusing more on what the user experience is and how the users, because at the end of the day, most companies have 1-2 sysadmins, but they have hundreds, if not thousands, of users. So if we can make the users happy, I think we can do good. We're also doing similarly, as Brian mentioned, we're rebuilding the route builder, making it also slicker, moving away from the Java applet. We're overhauling control copies. We're adding more functionality and options with what you can do with control copies. You can now do, you'll soon be able to do electronic control copies where you can email someone a control copy. And we're also going to be including hard copy destruction record keeping. We'll also be sorting out how the controlled copies are displayed, where you'll see things by revision and how hard copies were distributed or control copies were distributed on a version-by-version basis, not just sort of lumping everything back into the new revision, and you wonder, so who got the second version, who didn't? And we're also taking advantage of new technology with regards to cloud integration for collaboration. So we're building tighter integrations with Office 365. We're looking at Google Docs as an option as well, although there's some stigma with it being such an open system and life sciences being such a controlled organization. And also, Please Review. Some of you may be familiar with Please Review, a real-time collaboration tool that will allow multiple users to be editing the same document simultaneously in real time. And with all of this functionality, we feel that long-term we may be able to alleviate, if not replace, a lot of the pain some of you may feel with My Files and some of the challenges you face with that. So we're hoping to kill two birds with one stone by adding more collaboration and also alleviating that pain with My Files. Doc Compare is another one that we're adding. So we have some capabilities right now from within the Windows Master Control ribbon where you can compare some documents, but what we're finding is that users want to compare previous versions to new versions, especially if they didn't take part in the collaboration. And when you're talking about training, for example, you have a 200-page SOP. You just got trained on it 6 months ago. It just changed again. Oh my God, I have to read 200 pages again. Now you'll be able to compare what the changes were that occurred from the previous version to the new version in a track changes kind of way, and scroll through what changed and know that, okay, now I know what was changed between versions. I can move along and answer questions as part of the training, and also be able to do that from within the interface itself. Be able to compare previous released versions, see how the documents changed.
Oh. Like I know that you have the ability to do that now within Word.
Yeah.
Yes,
it would be within Master Control, and it won't require that you take the document out of the system to compare. You'll also have that ability to do it as part of a training task as well, which will be, I think, one of the bigger values is during training when you have those changes and You don't want to read all 200 pages all over again.
Now my next question, how do I know when that's officially official? Do I just watch for release notes, or when does that become?
When does it become a release? In the release notes, we'll provide that, and also in any of the roadmap information that we'll share with you. I think right now that's projected for 11.4, but don't hold me to it. But it's definitely before 11.6. That much I know, because it's already projected in our all the way through 11.6 project planning. All right. So in summary, the configuration enhancements we've done with version 11, a lot of them were around giving you more options with configuration, multi-select routes, multi-select custom fields, multi-select life cycles. We did a lot of overhauling of the packet types, giving you more options of what you can do within a packet type, launching those, segregating by business unit, adding the ability to launch process forms, and then also more flexibility around filtering your taxonomies. And beyond V11, you're going to see a major shift in the user interface. It's going to be simpler, less congested looking with a lot of information and having to scroll through it. It's going to be more seamless and user friendly and really present you with the information that is relevant to you, and that's the most frequently used by our users. Also, many of our is anyone in the room part of the CAB, our Customer Advisory Board? Okay, so you're probably familiar with us having periodic meetings where we will have different PMs present some of the ideas we're doing, what we're doing with training, what we're doing with docs, what we're doing with organizers and the customer website. We're going to be doing that frequently, but what we also want to do is open up the doors for anyone who's interested in also becoming what we call the guinea pigs, if you will, where we can give you access to a preview site, give you what we call clickable HTML, sort of like a storyboard that gives you a sample of what is coming down the road and give you the ability to provide feedback on it. We may often ask you, we're struggling with two different scenarios. Would you prefer to be able to do this way or that way? Right now, perhaps the Customer Advisory Board is split between a 50-50, or internally in our discussions, multiple users have different strong opinions, but it's really split down the middle, and we really need your input. So if you're interested in becoming part of that email list where we'll send you those preview sites and ask you for feedback, please take down my information, send me an email, and we'll add you to our list for the different modules. If you want, by default, it'll be for the documents module. If you want to also be involved in other modules, please state that in the email, and I'll make sure that the appropriate PMs get your names for when they release those preview sites as well. Okay. Any questions? I'll leave that up there for anyone who wants to take a picture.
Okay.
All right. If not, I will release you to food. Thank you.
Thank you.